Hey guys, Mad Science here, and today I am back for day number 4 of r/NuclearRevenge, where today I have 3 stories lined up, 2 of which are on the shorter side, one of them is on like a medium length. I did find this epic story that was like a 2-parter, multiple parts in those posts, but as soon as I started reading it, it said that I do not give consent for you to read these stories on for YouTube. I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna just go and take my business elsewhere then. First up, we'll start off with entitled lady's Porsche loses tires. Okay, so this story took place back when I was in Florida in the early 90s. It does involve an act of vandalism that is connected to revenge. Hopefully it won't be removed, and hopefully it will count as nuclear revenge. Anyway, South Florida was devastated by Hurricane Andrew. My dad, as part of a local charity, was set up day after day at a local market seeking donations from shoppers to give to food banks. You have to understand, this storm left many people homeless and without power in some cases for 6+ months in Florida heat and humidity. My father was legally disabled from a serious car accident. He was hit by a drunk driver in the early 80s and suffered from relentless hip and back problems. It never killed his heart or kindness to others, though, hence the charity work. One day he was about to pull into the disabled space at the local market to buy a few items to donate to the hurricane charity. Right before he is about to pull in, this lady pulls into the space in this shiny red Porsche. My dad parks behind her and says, "Excuse me, ma'am, I was about to pull in there." And he also points to his disabled placard in the window. She says to him, "You don't look disabled," and proceeded to walk into the store. For anyone who has a relative who uses a disabled space, you know the frustration of this situation and the anger one feels. My dad, seemingly unfazed, waits until she goes into the store and then gets out and snips the valve stems on all 4 tires, flattening but not destroying all of them. He then pulls into another space not far away and just waits. About 15 minutes later, the lady comes out and is shrieking about her car being vandalized. My dad is far enough away so she couldn't see him, but he can hear everything. She calls the police. Big mistake. She files for vandalism, and the police give her a ticket for being parked in the disabled space with no placard. About $250 at the time. The cops leave and she calls a tow truck. As the car is being loaded onto the truck, my dad pulls up and says to her, "You don't look disabled, but your car sure is," and then drives off. My dad could be a nice guy and pure savage when he needed to be. Just snippy, flatten your tire. I don't think you even need to snip the valve stems. All you need to do is just twist them all off, and then just wait. And then just or put them in her car or something like that, like where she can't find them. So you technically did not lose any property, and he technically did not do any damage in a way, unless they don't have the screw things, which is a silly design for a car. Like, wouldn't you want a way of pumping the tires up? "5 years of child abuse. A lifetime of hell on earth." Not my story, but a very close friend of mine who told me this. He was sexually abused by his stepfather ever since he was 6, and was violated around his 8th year. Oh, of course, I can't escape it. His biological father died of a work-related accident, and his mother married this stepfather that he knew from her hometown a few years later. That fatherly figure soon turned out to be an abusive monster that was oh so eager to put his hands on anything that moves. His mother didn't know of any of the sexual abuse that he was going through because the son was threatened by death of his mother and him if he says anything. He was in an ever worse situation after getting bullied and abused. He was completely suicidal he was debating on just jumping in front of a semi and end it all multiple times, but his mother was the only reason he didn't do it, kept pushing on through it all. He started slowly making a few friends that helped him cope a little. On his 10th, he was violently molested and left limping after his father went all out on him. He was forced to go to school the day after and was limping from the pain, unable to sit at all, unable to move, but he endured it and shrugged it off as an accident so that no one finds out what happens. He saw what the man can do. He doesn't want his mother hurt or worse because he told on this monster. Even the bullies stopped making fun of him after seeing that he didn't care anymore and what they did to him. More uninterested in bullying an inanimate object than pity. Oh my god. A few older students who were a mix of 16 and 18 caught up to what happened and pulled him aside one day to ask what happened. They all sat down and talked. Although they knew what was happening, they merely asked to confirm what's going on. My friend, who told them to not spread it as it means life and death to him, and especially his mother, let out all the information out of pure fear from about 5 or 6 behemoths towering around him and years of abuse killing his self-esteem. The seniors were not amused. Not one bit. They were all hell-bent on making this man regret his life choices and make him regret it. They did. They stalked him, cornered him, and afterwards they went completely berserk on him, sodomized him with a multitude of tools, carved child rapists on his back, beat the bejesus out of his testicles, ow, to the point where he was quite literally peeing blood, ow, and continued beating him up in the process, and afterwards just to really nail the point in. They didn't want him to die. They wanted him to live and suffer from it. He was rushed to the hospital with both arms broken on multiple points. Eye socket collapsed, and eye heavily damaged with no chance of repair. Both his testicles were ruptured, and damaged beyond salvation. His anus was ripped to the size of a 22-centimeter ball. And he lost about 70% of his teeth. How do you get it to a 22-centimeter ball? Whoo, boy. That is one gaseous ass. And there was more, but it would take this whole post just to list all the damage dealt. They caught him at the brink of death from all the bleeding and managed to keep him alive somehow. The next day, they told his mum of what happened. What he did to him. She wasn't just filing for divorce. She took everything he ever owned, all the money he made, and afterwards had him behind bars with a little birdie that told every inmate inside of what he did. Last he heard of him was that he was being used quite literally as the prison soap dispenser while in the pen. He didn't die, but he was left with a gape that would even make hot Kinky Joe roaming the streets, shunned by everyone, and they still regularly tell people of who he is and what he did to publicly shame him for what he did, losing him any job possible and barred from many establishments, and was regularly stoned, hissed at, and yelled at to go away like a stray dog. There was no mercy for him. 5 years of child abuse, a lifetime of hell on earth. Oh my god. My friend is now 26 years old, works in a decent place where he's beyond respected. His mother living with him, still single sadly, but he is now living a better life than what he had when he was a kid. He left the country where all this happened with his mother and started working and studying, and now lives a more or less easier life, working as a vice principal in the nursery I work in despite his history. TLDR, the man physically and sexually abused my friend for 5 years straight, got more than he ever bargained for, got the beating of a lifetime, prison wrapped, public shamed, and hobo raised. Adamantium. Clearing up where it happened. This happened in Tanzania a long time ago. We didn't have the whole televised horrors of society, but rather it was more or less a large section in the newspapers that people ended up reading or seeing. Most of our TV stations, 2 or 3 of them back then, were regularly regulated and monitored by the government when Ben Ali was in presidency. So it always either shows random Egyptian and Tanzanian soap operas, or if it's news, it's mostly good news or political attacks from any opposing side that was against any opposition to Ben Ali or anyone that was under him. Newspapers, on the other hand, were practically free game. They post whatever they want freely as long as they don't attack or offend any governmental bodies, president, cops, unless they had to do with a dirty cop, and especially the president's wife for some reason. Internet was also a rarity. Only a few had it and used it, and it was mostly used for business and communication between family members. Did you know that in the town I was born in, they had just recently discovered that there's a device called the Wii U? They only thought there was only a Wii, and that was about it. Insane, right? As much as I'd love to find a newspaper with the story, I can't seem to find it anywhere online, and I doubt he have a copy of it either, but I will ask him and see if he has it. But I will definitely see if I can find it, because I personally want to see what they've written on the subject. I doubt they'll say anything necessarily bad, but they'll throw some shade subliminally and call it a day. And then all the edits is just like, oh my god, a lot of upvotes. Oh my god. I don't like... I don't like when people are just like, oh, edit, you gave me a whole bunch of upvotes. Like, yes, that is usually what happens. I will say, I did have a post on Amino at one point that really blew up because I did my mathematics and people were actually interested in it. But I didn't gloat about it. I don't keep going on and on about it every time. I just left it. It's basically my past now. I got like a whole heap of views on it. It even got like front page of the Amino page that it was on. But other than that, not much else happened with it. Last story. Never underestimate a child's ability for revenge. We got another child getting revenge story, huh? Cross post, though it may go well here. AITA. When I was much younger, I was molested. Why am I fighting them? On different occasions. One almost broke my spirit, but I got my revenge in the end. Being little and in the 4th grade, there wasn't much I could do physically, but I bided my time. After being held out of my school by my grandfather, who told me to put on a dress that was much too small and wanted me to sit on his lap, I did neither, but a degree of molestation occurred anyway. I felt dirty, degraded, and most of all, I was pissed. I even threw myself I threw myself even farther into my schoolwork and waited. Tick, tick, tick. Oh my god, no, 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 no. My father, who worked nights, was asleep in his room before his shift started. My grandfather and I were in the room watching television. He in his recliner and I on the couch. He starts making noises like a puppy here hopping on his stomach, forcing the air from his lungs and vomited into the small trash can next to his chair, then grabbed his chest and looked at me. Confused, I asked if he was okay. All he could say was, I knew from CPR training from the Girl Scouts that he was having a heart attack. Okay, at least it wasn't a little boy. At least it's not a little boy in this story. I sat on the couch and held eye contact with him, smiling. I waited and waited and waited until he fell unconscious, and it was likely too late for anything to be done before getting my dad and telling him what was happening in the living room. Dad called 911 and the ambulance came to take the old man away, and I was sent to the neighbor's house while Dad followed the ambulance in his own vehicle. The old pervert died in the hospital, and I had to play the tearful granddaughter at the funeral. I guess I wasn't a very good Girl Scout after all. TLDR, grandfather molested me as a child, and I waited until a heart attack was too far along for him to be saved before I got help. I never told my dad because he would have killed my grandfather, and I would have been placed in the system if he went to jail, and there were no other family members to take me in. I never told Dad after grandfather dies because he would have felt he was unable to protect me. He was a single father. Oh my god. Why? 3 out of the 4 days so far, I've run into stories of molesting or rap. I cannot believe I just said that word. Whoops. But 3 of the 4 days so far, I've run into the same theme. That's what NuclearRevenge has just became the revenge. It's like the subreddit for revenge after getting rapped, or preventing rap, or anything like that. I cannot believe that. 3 of the 4 episodes. And on that note, I'm going to end this episode here. Links will be in the description to my main channel and also the second channel that you're on right now that has links to the playlist and the last episode. You go check them out. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when next video comes out. A ding, a ding. I'm Mad Scientist. Mad Scientist out.